Hey boys, welcome back to some more Nrl Supercoach. It's going to be a pre-lockout discussion. We'll go through, we'll talk more about the sit starts, the captains, that sort of stuff. Also, I do have to still decide what I'm doing, if I'm just going to hold trades again, or if we are going to pull the trigger on one fairly upside trade, which I am leaning towards doing. Because at the end of the day, yeah, saving 3 trades and saving a boost where you can make up a lot of ground could be nice, but at the same time, trading in a high upside guy now could reap more points than a potential resting later on, and I'll still have 2 trades for a little bit of carnage. So at the end of the day, I think that's what we're gonna do, but we'll talk more about it. We'll have a little look-see. So, I guess the other big factor here is it looks like, I'm pretty sure it was confirmed that Fisher Harris and Dylan Edwards are they're fit to go. So I'm expecting Dylan Edwards to come straight back in at fullback. I don't think Fisher Harris. It won't really change Liam Henry. Yeah, because he's playing in the back row, so obviously it's not going to affect Henry at all. So I still... let's talk about the front row for a second. So who am I sitting? Who am I sitting out of these 3? So that... I guess another little bit of big news, the Tigers now, Dream Buller is gone for the rest of the season, needing shoulder surgery. It could impact their attack a little bit. They got a young guy, Mason, coming in, I think it was. But does it affect Fainu too much? I don't think so. It's just the Galvin-Fainu combo is so good. Like, I want to play Henry. Is it worth playing... I guess I would like to see if Henry's on Cleary's side of the field as well. I think I play Henry. At the moment, I'm leaning towards... Then the Doggies are playing the Dolphins, who I like. I like going through the middle there as well. Let's just... At the moment, I think we do play Henry. I think that's what I'm going to do straight off. But then, so Laurie is gone... I'm predicting. I mean, I guess the other question now is if Laurie ends up on the wing, which he could do, they could drop Taruva. I'm expecting him to go to 14. Obviously, I'm not going to play him. But if he's on the wing against the Storm, do I play him? That's a conundrum. I'm not sure. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But just for simplicity's sake, we'll say Laurie goes to 14. Or he could drop out. Maybe they give Laurie a rest. Even though, I mean, he did have the week off before with the head knock. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But let's just say for now, Laurie's on the bench and we're not going to play him. That does mean... I think we just play Ali Katoa. I think that was probably the right decision anyway, coming up against, a couple of weaker... second rowers for the Panthers this week. I think Katoa is a pretty solid play, pretty solid option. We're still not playing Dylan Brown, I think. Lucky Galvin obviously slot straight in. I think the fact I'm playing Galvin now, it sort of leans me to not play Fainu just because I've got one of the combo. If Galvin kills it and he links up with Fainu a lot and he puts him through some gaps, I mean, Galvin's still going to score points. We'll miss out on Fainu, but at least I'm not putting all the eggs in one basket. I still think Curran with the minutes. How many minutes did he play? He obviously, I think the minutes have been a bit down. They still need him to play big minutes. Yeah. I guess, honestly, surprisingly, the minutes have been a little less than you'd expect. Like 50-odd minutes. It's still good. But yeah, there's been covering a few niggles. Maybe it's safe just to go with the 80-minute. I'm not sure about that. We'll decide. But nothing really else happened in the lead up, I don't think. So, we're still sitting with Tedesco, Young, We're sitting Marju. I'm happy to sit Marju. He could score 2 tries. He could, but I'm not playing him. Sitting Dylan Brown against the Roosters. I think that's fine. And then we're sitting one of our front row forwards who are pretty solid. So yeah, I think that's looking still pretty good. Now the big question, and I think I'm down to Lomax or Manu. Obviously, Toto, like I said, Toto. I can't pick up Toto now just because of a potential resting. And like I said, yeah, you could wait and see if he gets rested and then he plays last couple of games of the round or last couple of games of the season. He'll go massive, but you're missing out on like 2 potential good weeks from other very, very high upside players. So I think I'm off the Toto train. Don't get me wrong, if you had him, I think he's a fucking great pod play. Not even a pod play. I mean, he is a pod in terms of ownership, but he's arguably going to be the best for the run home, potentially. But there's some good upside players now. Lomax versus Manu. There's a couple of tidbits here. So if we bring in Manu, we can obviously go McLean straight to Manu with 500 buckaroos to spare, which feels great, right? And don't get me wrong, like McLean has been pretty damn solid, and it's not like I would dislike playing McLean, but the reality is, am I actually going to be playing McLean really at all for the run home? Because I'm not playing him this week against the Storm, right? I have no real interest with some of the other players I've got on the roster. Canberra, pretty good matchup. That's definitely one you consider. But again, like, am I going to be playing him over? I'm always going to be for the run home. Tommy and Tedesco are, they don't have any buys, so they're locked in. And then our back rowers, I think they're all sweet. I don't think there's any buys left for either of these guys either. I think maybe Nikora has a buy coming up for feeder, but at most we're going to be missing maybe one guy. So we're always going to have like 2 gun second rowers to choose from. We're going to have 2 gun second rowers. We're going to have 1 must play fullback, and then we're going to have like 2 other gun center wingers that we have to pick behind. Like if Marju has a bad matchup, we're not going to play him, but if he has a good one, it's going to be tough to leave him out. And then that's not even throwing in like a Laurie, a Dylan Brown. So, McLean, I don't think we're going to be playing him. And then, South Gold Coast is great, but if Penrith rests like a bunch of players, then McLean maybe doesn't go that well in those games. So I think, but then the more I'm like, oh shit. The more I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, if I bring in, oh my God, this is the problem, right? I bring in Manu for McLean. Then that leaves me with 7 absolute gun center wingers. And like I just said, I've got 2 gun fullbacks. You have to play your 2 fullbacks every week. They've got great matchups. You're playing them. You're playing those. Your back rowers, I mean, this is probably the only week where you would sit Ali Katoa. Let's have a look at Katoa's run home. He might have a bye. I can't even fucking remember. He's got the Dolphins, Cowboys, Bronx. And I mean, maybe he gets rested, but he did just have a sort of a rest last week with a niggle, so it's a really good run home for Katoa. Crichton, I mean, I don't think we're going to be... we're not sitting Crichton. He's got Para, Gold Coast, Canberra, South. Again, I was shocked he didn't rest over Origin, but I don't see him really resting now. I mean, for feeder... What's Fafita got? He's got Dragons, Roosters, Newcastle, then Penrith. It's like an up and down, but at the same time, it's Fafita. You're not playing him. And against Penrith could be without a bunch of star players. So that game, not necessarily like a terrible matchup for Fafita. Ola Kawatu, I know for a fact, they've got a great draw. He's back from suspension. And then, did I already look at Nikora? Nikora's got Newcastle, Dragons, Warriors, Manly. Like, that's golden as well. So we're going to... this is the thing. If I bring in Manu, I'm gonna. Oh, Jesus Christ! And then if we look like Holmes, Kiraz, Garrick, and Ero now are like they're sort of must plays. I know Holmes. Like, they've had a couple of lower scores, but they're still, 60 points. 60 points without going, great. Fuck, if I bring in Manu, I'm just going to have another headache. I'm sort of... Oh, man. I'm honestly... Oh, shit, I don't know. Man, oh, man. Because if I bring in Manu this week... Who do I sit? I'm obviously not seeing Dom Young. We're not sitting Kiraz. We're not sitting Garrick. Holmes, no. Taking on Canberra. And then definitely not Carolero. We're already sitting our 5'8" and halfback. We're definitely not sitting Tedesco. Thurman not playing. We're definitely not sitting Crichton. We would have to sit Ali Katoa. Is that worth it? I mean, Katoa can score 50, mid 40s to 50 if he doesn't get much attack. But that's the same with Manu. Manu can definitely go 50s as well. So is it really worth to bring in Manu just to sit Ali Katoa? The more I look at it, the more I'm I think we just hold the trade. Chasing the points is I do think chasing the points is the right thing to do this time of the season, but if you're just going to be sitting another guy that could literally score the same as them, is that really worth it? It's against the Eels, who, yes, they have been poor, but the Eels, they still have a good team on paper. The Eels could turn up. Manu, I mean, if you look at Manu, he's... I'm not going to lie, I would probably rather bring in Zach Lomax over Manu. The more I think about it, I don't know what to think about Manu. The fact I've already got Dom Young as well. Obviously, if Dom Young goes big, then Manu's probably gone big as well. But the fact is, Manu... he is 570 for a reason. He's obviously, a couple of injury-affected scores thrown in there. He got sin binned his game back, so low score. But, I mean, he had a 22. I mean, he's been really consistent this year. That's the one thing this year. He has been a lot more consistent, I will say that. Usually centre Manu... You're more looking at a lot more 60s, right? But he's had some just really solid high scores. Nothing crazy, though. That is the one thing. He probably doesn't have the ceiling of a Lomax. Yeah. I mean, a 117, that's great. But there's only 3 tons, and they're not blowing your socks off. Again, if he's going to get 80s and 90s, I mean, it's fucking great. You're probably not going to captain him or Lomax regardless. I mean, Lomax, I think, is a pretty good vice-captain on a few weeks, but... I'm more leaning towards Lomax, but again, the same question. Do I bring in Lomax? Obviously, I'm going to play him, but I'm playing him over Ali Katoa. It is against Penrith, so maybe that is just the right play. But then you throw in the fact Penrith have fucking Liam Henry and Maverick Geyer in the second row spot. It's not Scott Sorensen and Liam Martin. So, I don't know. And he'll be up against McLean's edge, which I don't know if it's... I don't know. McLean, Tungo's pretty god-awful defensively. I'd probably rather him the other side. Yeah, I think typically that right... Is it the right side? Yeah, because Cleary... I guess with Cleary back on that side, it has helped out defensively. Cleary is very, very solid defensively. Very strong. So that's probably helped that side of the field. But then Cattell will be running at, Luai. Yeah, you probably like him at Luai over Cleary, obviously. But yeah, Luai, I don't know if it's Gaia or Henry. I'm not sure. I think, from memory, Gaia came on the left last week. And I think typically Henry's played on the right-hand side. I could be wrong. About that. I think both are fine. But yeah, the Luai, McLean, and back rower side is probably the target. God damn it. I don't know. Maybe I just hold, dude. Maybe I just hold the trade. I honestly, I'm happy to hold the trade this week for Manu. If Manu... Like, again, he's got a big break-even. Like, the break-even doesn't matter, but he's not going to get insanely expensive, right? And then next week he takes on... I mean, he's got Gold Coast, Canberra, South. I mean, it's okay. The one guy that I'm like, if you're bringing in now, is Zach Lomax. Like, up against the Titans. I mean, Lomax is just going to be tackle busting all day, bro. Like, the Titans can... turn it around. Like, they can sometimes dish up some better defense, but they're never that good just with contact, you know? They're a team that misses a lot of tackles and gets brushed off, like, with those tackle busters like Lomax. So, it's hard to pass up. And I honestly, this way, I don't trade out McLean. It sort of solves the issue I was talking about. Is that if it doesn't solve this week's issue, but further weeks, I'm getting rid of Marju. It means that I don't need to worry about playing Marju, because I'm not going to lie. Yes, Marju has some very good matchups, but he's been pretty shit. Like, he's been okay, like, with, his base is still fine, but he's just not getting the attack. And it can happen. Years like this can happen for wingers. Like, they go 1 year scoring plenty, the next year it just dries up. And their run is, like, fine. Like, I probably don't really want to play him against South, even though it's a pretty good matchup. Gold Coast and Dolphins, very good to finish. God, it's so goddamn difficult. But again, like I said, this case, I get rid of Marju. That's one less, like, gun in certain weeks that I don't have to think about. I'm playing Lomax every week. It does mean I have to drop somebody else, which, again, it's a bit tricky. And then McLean can just sit there. And if there's plenty of resting, like, I think McLean is nice to hold just because of, like, if there's heaps of restings, if there's heaps of guns getting, like, a rest in the last couple of weeks, McLean, it'd be a little surprising. Again, I'm still open to the idea of potentially Laurie takes McLean's spot, so then McLean doesn't obviously get any more games. But I could see it happen. I could see Laurie going into the centres, or maybe Taruva go to the centres and Laurie to the wing. It could happen. But I think if that doesn't happen, then obviously McLean is, like, going to be a pretty solid play for the last couple of rounds if you need a number. But you don't have to play him, which is nice. And you're not really going to be that tempted to play him with his scoring. Like, it's fine, but he's obviously not, like, he's a young kid coming in. Like, he's going to score a few tries, but even with the tries, he's not going massive. So I think Lomax is really starting to appeal. Also, this way, it saves me a little bit of cash. Like, I'll have a little bit of cash to work with, which doesn't really matter too much with, I think, the potential trades to come. But it's, it could prove valuable. I just think I would just like to have Lomax, if I'm honest. I think I've got plenty of Roosters. I've got Dom Young already. I think Lomax can go ballistic on the run home. I really do. I really, really do. Yeah, and I think if you're not going this week, I don't think it's worth it. I think if you wait a week, I think you'd rather just bring in Manu than next week against the Titans, right? If you're going Lomax this week, absolutely. But then next week they take on the Sharks, which is, a pretty tough matchup. They're good defensively. And then Manu takes on the Titans. Like, you'd rather bring in Manu next week. So, It's a factor, like, oh, I don't know. He could go fucking huge. That's the big thing. He could go massive. And unlike Manu, I mean, he's only had the one massive score. Similar to Manu, who's had 3 tons. One big ton. They haven't... Oh, no, he got a ton against the Titans round 1 of the season. So, not even really at finding their feet yet. He's got a ton, so he could have gone very big there. A 98. Couple of lower scores, but again, it's against the better teams. 49 against the Sharkies, who they take on the week after. Para... They haven't played yet. And then Canberra... He hasn't played yet either. Okay, fair enough. It's interesting sometimes the way the fucking draw works, but fair enough. I don't know. I'm so torn. Oh, I'm so torn. I honestly think, because it's such like a 50-50, I think just play Katoa. I think play Katoa, hold the trade, and then... Again, it's sort of like it's similar to the Fanua Blake one of a few weeks ago, right? Fanua Blake coming up against the Tigers. Obviously, he was the obvious trade in, and you knew against the Tigers he was going to go big, right? But it was like he's going to go big this week, but you're hoping that he's not going to come up against the Tigers for the next few weeks, right? Same with Lomax. I think he is by far a great chance to go huge at win 2 p.m. against this Titans side, right? He could go massive. But then it is a bit of a tricky run home, where he might not go that big. If I wait a week, just hold the trade, again, anything could happen. There could be a couple more injuries and we'd be happy we held a trade. Like, that's the other big thing. Like, if we hold the trade and wait for Manu next week, which I do like, anything could happen. Val Holmes could get injured. Kiraz, Garrick, Iro, Dom Young could get injured again. Like, one of these big guns, or one of our fullbacks, like, one of these big guns could get injured, and then you're like, oh, that's perfect. I can just trade one of these guys to him. Now, is it likely to happen? Not necessarily, but I think just due to the fact that it's, like, so 50-50, I think just hold the trade. I think holding the trade is probably the smart decision, because, again, I'm not going to be playing Katoa. Katoa's every chance to go 80 plus. If he gets one attacking stat, he's going 70, 80 plus, right? Lomax needs to get, like, quite a few goal kicks and an attacking stat to go like that as well. So he's likely to do it. But yeah, I think I'm leaning that. Because then we throw in the fact as well, what if Laurie plays on the wing in this game? And am I playing Laurie? Yeah, you probably play Laurie over Galvin, I think. I don't know, but I'm leaning no trades. So, and yeah, I do like the idea of waiting a week on Manu. Again, he could go big against this Eels side. Like, the Eels have not been good defensively, but then they take on the Titans next week, where Manu could carve up. So I think I'm just gonna hold. Yeah. I think I shouldn't try to second guess it too much. But let's have a look. We've gone through sit starts. Again, we just have to decide, like, what happens with Laurie if he ends up starting or if not. Dylan Brown, I'm happy to sit. And then it's out of probably Curran versus Fainu. Again, we don't have to play Henry, but I like the idea of playing Henry when he starts. Like, the base is just unbelievable. So yeah, I think that's what we do. It's just a question there. So vice captain captains. This is a big one. So I mean, for me, it's pretty simple. If you had Kalen Ponga instead of like a Tedesco or a Turbo, it obviously puts... it probably doesn't make it too difficult, because Ponga up against the Sharkies, I mean, you wouldn't captain Ponga in that game. So I think it's still out of Cleary, Turbo / Tedesco / Yeah, not Ponga. So it's out of those three guys if you got them. And again, I think I'm not going to straight captain Cleary against the Storm when you've got Turbo and Tedesco with good matchups. So Cleary with the vice captain, it'll depend. It'll be nice because we'll know pretty much all the low... maybe. Jane Brayley, obviously, last game of the round could shit us again, but I think to loop this is going to have to be pretty big from Cleary, like a pretty big score. It's not like a free looper last week. If you got like 90 odd, I'd be very happy to loop. But this week, I think you're more looking like that 120, 130 plus for a loop in this one. And I don't think it's that likely against the Storm. Then the big question, Turbo v Tedesco. This could separate the week right here. I think it's like I'm leaning Turbo. I mean, it's just that the 4 Points Park is just so enticing, and the Warriors, when you look at the team on paper, it's still good, but at the same time, you love it. The Warriors have not been good. My initial gut instinct was Turbo. I think I'm just gonna hold. I'm not gonna try to swing back and forth on these two. My initial gut feeling was Turbo. That's what I'm leaning towards. If Teddy ends up scoring more, it is what it is. Like, that's Supercoach, baby. So I'm going Turbo. I can definitely understand the Tedesco one. I think it's more like another big factor here is that the Roosters, they've done it before, right? Like, they have attack all across the park, and there's been times where they score a lot of points and, someone like a Manu or a Sam Walker or one of these other guys goes massive or the other guy doesn't. Like, it can happen, right? I think Turbo, if Manly go and have a big win, like, it's Turbo. Like, he's the one that's really had a play. He would have had a big hand in the attack. Also, I want to have a look at the Warriors. The Warriors team. I'm really hoping Ed Cossey, I can't remember. I'm really hoping what's his face? Ed Cossey is still on the wing. I'm just gonna have a quick squiz because he's fucking trash. And who would be maybe Jason Saab, I can't remember. But who's in the back line for the Warriors? I know Johnson is back, which again I don't know about that. Okay, it's a little stronger. So they got Marcelo Montoya and Pompey back, which it makes it a little tougher for sure. So yeah, the young guys are out, Cossey and I can't even think of the center who was playing, but yeah, they're out. Forward pack still strong. I mean, the bench is looking a little weak, but yeah, I like the Turbo one. It's still, yeah, I'm going with that. I'm going with that. That's what I'm leaning towards. So, anything else to really chat about? I mean, we'll look at. So I don't think there'll be many people in this situation, but if you're still someone who is looking for a fullback, like if you had the choice to get in like a Ponga / Turbo / Tedesco, if you had Tedesco or Turbo, one or the other, and you had just someone else as a placeholder at the moment, and you're looking either Ponga and one of the other guys, I definitely would just go. Personally, I think Tommy Trbojevic and Tedesco are the two fullbacks for the run home. Ponga is good. It's just more look at the draws. Manly have like 4 great matchups, right? They've got Warriors, Tigers. Well, you know what? Oh, you know what? I mean, I honestly think Turbo's pretty matchup proof. I mean, he scored a ton against the Panthers when the Panthers were still pretty solid. Like, yeah, he's had a couple of 50s thrown in here, but he's matchup proof. I don't think the Dog Sharks are necessarily that bad, but yeah, okay, it's 2 great games and then 2 pretty tough games, you would say. Tedesco, I'm pretty sure his are like all good. Para, Gold Coast, Canberra, South. I mean, the South game could be tough. Who knows? That could be all sorts, that one. But then Ponga will have, I think it's more like 2 tough ones and then 2 great ones. So it's sort of the opposite of Turbo. He's got Sharks, Rabbit. I mean, Rabbits is pretty good as well, but maybe they turn up. Like, it's a pretty good, Murray's back, Kalmatungi back on the edge. Latrell, I don't think Latrell's back. I don't know. We'll see. But, it could be okay. Like, an okay matchup. But then Gold Coast Dolphins. You know what? The fact I'm not using a trade this week, you could play a little roulette. In round 26, when Turbo has the doggies, you could trade Trebojevic to Ponga against the Titans and then the Dolphins. That could be a very, very interesting play. I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to pan out. Like, again, I think Turbo can go ton against the Dogs and the Sharks, right? He can. And Ponga, I think the one issue with Ponga is that I think the Knights as a whole are a worse team than the Roosters and Manly, right? So I think there's more chance for the Knights to have a shocker and Ponga not to be able to fire. But against the easier teams, it's less likely. Also, he has the goal kicking, which is then a plus as well. I do like that, though. Oh, maybe we do that. Little sneaky play in a couple of weeks, Tommy to Ponga. I know I said I wasn't going to be able to do a little bit of roulette, but if we don't have to, if we're not bringing in Lomax this week, and then if I'm not like, I have to bring in Manu next week, we could definitely just hold off and then bring in Ponga for Turbo. I don't mind it, but obviously that depends on if there's other injuries or suspensions or whatever else. So yeah, that's in the back play, but I actually like that. It also means not going to Lomax this week makes a bit more sense as well with that potential play. Because again, like, I know you got 3 trades left, so you could still do it with like 1 trade left, but I still think I have to hold 2 trades for the last round, right? Like, I have to. There's got to be a couple of good trade-ins in that last round to make a difference. But I think that's where we're sitting. I think it's pretty good overall. Again, like I said, if Laurie is in the 14, there is still a temptation to bring in like a Semi Walker, obviously. I think, like I said, I think Walker is like, he's the upside king in the halfback spot for the run home. He's only 690k too. I could easily do it. The money's not an issue. And 8 break even as well, so he's going to get pretty expensive if he has a couple of good games. He's a Rocks or Diamonds type, old Sammy Walker. He's got some low ones in him, but he's gone pretty big. He's gone pretty big as of late. But I mean, again, like, I don't know. Fuck, you got 56 against the Tigers, 65, 39, but then bang bang, 111, 105 against Para, went 52. He has to do so much. That's the thing. And he does do a lot, but he has to do it every week. I think out of Walker, Lomax, Manu, I don't know. I'd probably go Lomax top, Manu, then Walker. I don't know if that's crazy. Yeah, interesting. I think I'm not going to do the trade though. I think I'm just going to hold. I'm going to hold fire on that, and then next week we will decide if we're going to use a trade or hold again. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Looking forward, like I said, we got stacked. We got a stacked team. Obviously, the Laurie one is interesting coming up for cuts and whatnot. What happens with him? But like I keep saying, even if he is back to the bench this week, I'm still happy enough to hold him this week, because I still believe that in a couple of these games coming up, he could definitely find himself back in the starting team against some pretty good opposition, and he would be a great play. So I'm happy to hold a low score this week from Laurie. I guess the interesting part with Laurie, if he So if he gets back to the bench this week, and then next week he's also the 14, it's just they got the South and Gold Coast to finish. Like, if he gets to play if Laurie plays the Gold Coast Titans in the last game of the season, like, absolute super pod, dude. Even South. So, yes. I don't know. But, we'll have our questions answered pretty soon on that front. But yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying the content. Getting into the back end now. We're approaching it. There's less and less to really talk about. But yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying. Make sure to like and comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.